Hello and welcome to The Final Whistle with me, Steve Forbes.
And me, Kenzie Benali.
And it was a dismal night here at St Mary's as Southampton had dealt a hammer blow in their hopes for Premier League survival, losing 1-0 to Bournemouth this evening. Now join us to discuss the match. We have Paul Belveston and Dean Hammond joining us once again. Paul, we'll come to you first. It's a hard match to open in terms of, introducing this show, but how would you summarise it?
I think that word dismal you used was a very good one, and yeah, hammer blow. It feels sadly like a fatal blow really for the season now. I know there are 5 games left, but Dean quite rightly said before kick-off, probably need 4 wins out of 6. Now 4 out of 5 seems just like the mountain of all mountains really. And the thing that's annoyed me more than anything, it's like we've seen this film before this season. You think Forest and Brighton and Leeds and Palace and Brentford, especially after a very good performance, then following it up with a rather limp one. And at the end there we had the exhilaration of Shea Adams seemingly equalising, and then I was thinking we were in one for another Tottenham. Injury time comes and there's only going to be one winner here because all the attacking impetus was going that way, but ultimately VAR takes that away and it would have papered over the cracks anyway. It wouldn't have really been a fair reflection of the game. It's very easy as a fan, as someone who's never played professional football, to always sort of go in at why wasn't there more urgency? Why wasn't there more intent? Why did they look like they weren't really going for it? It only takes a second to score a goal. You need patience and things, but ultimately 2 shots on target in the game. Neto never really had a big save to make, and that's just one of the many big disappointments coming out of that one.
Dean, Paul summarised that as a fan, but as an ex-pro, is that a bitter pill to swallow?
It is, Steve, because I think it's disappointment in the performance. I think you can't control results. If a team plays better than you and they outplay you and they outsmart you, sometimes you have to hold your hands up and just admit defeat. But I think the disappointment and frustration tonight, and it will be with the players as well, that they will feel they've not done enough. Because in moments in the game they did. There was moments of pressure. There was moments of winning second balls. There was moments of asking Bournemouth questions, but it wasn't enough. Paul's just said it. 2 shots on goal or 2 shots on target is not enough in a game like this. And the frustration as an ex-pro is, I suppose I can see the smaller detail, the one-on-one duels that were lost, the second balls that were lost. It's difficult to accept when you see the opposition players outrunning the Southampton players. That's not a real criticism, but it's just a fact. And I think that just leads to the fact why you're not creating chances, why you're not scoring goals. So, look, Bournemouth have come with a game plan. They've executed really well. Paul got it correct before the game. They sat in, they played on the counter-attack. The ball over the top to Solanke really worked, and then they got players in support and created chances from that. I think Shea Adams came on and was fantastic, and if he'd played from the start, who knows. Stuart Armstrong as well came on brilliant. So maybe we were missing a bit of experience tonight, because when they came on they changed the game, and what they did and what experienced players do is they're willing to take a risk and they're willing to receive the ball, even if they do give it away, even if they do overhit a cross or a shot that goes over, they will continue to get on the ball and try and make something happen, and that's what happened with the goal. So yeah, look, it's disappointment, and it's all raw. It's raw for everyone because it feels like a bitter blow. This was the game after such a good performance and the result against Arsenal, to then lose to Bournemouth at home at 1-0 without really that amount of shots and pressures is the frustration.
Well, but you've given us your thoughts on the match as a whole, but what was your verdict on that first 45 specifically?
First half, again, there were flashes, there were some positive moments, there was positive intent. You can highlight the fact that the bar and post were hit twice. They went at them. I remember Adam Armstrong particularly really chasing down, closing down, putting pressure on. But, these moments really, over the course of 45 minutes, they were too fleeting. The 2 balls that hit the woodwork, never really going to go in. The one at the near post, it was covered by Neto. It was only a sort of a stab shot, was never really going to go in. Maybe 1 in 100. Theo Walcott's, I think, was it deflected and it looped onto the top really. A big frustration was, we talked beforehand about everyone knows Bournemouth cannot defend set pieces. They've struggled with that all season. The first 3 corners were all short corners. At one of them, I think over there, they had 3 players sort of in the corner ready to do it and only 2 in the box. So I'm not a master tactician by any means. I don't know what the game plan was. I struggled to work out some of the things. They changed the shape after, was it 20 minutes or something, when there was a break in play, and they tried a couple of things, but for whatever reason it just didn't work. And Bournemouth have conceded over 60 goals this season. They've kept a clean sheet here today. That can't happen when you're fighting for your lives.
Paul talks about tactics. Now, probably one of the biggest talking points, especially going into the second half, was the substitution of Prowsey for Lianco. Now, we can only assume it was injury or illness that forced him off at that period of time. But what did you make of the formation switch after that change was made?
Well, firstly, if Prowsey's come off in a game like this, it will be because of injury or illness, or there will be a factor, because he's such an important player for Southampton. The professional he is, he won't have asked to have come off. I'm sure he wanted to stay on, but the manager's had to make a decision if he is struggling. But the change, Paul's mentioned it, I think sometimes we can all try to be too clever and too smart, and the change of formation and then the change of formation, I felt sorry for Nathan Niles tonight, because he played at right wing back, left wing back, centre midfield. He just looked a little bit confused towards the end, and Bournemouth put a good display on tonight. So I don't want to take too much credit away from them, but it was never fluent for Southampton. We never really got any combinations going. We never really it didn't feel, the players didn't look like they were comfortable, whatever formation we were playing tonight. It looked like in moments where we did get the ball forward or we were on the counter-attack, players were isolated. They were on their own. There was no chance to play a ball into them, to follow, to go around the corner, to then switch play. It was all like kind of, I've got the ball to you. Could you please do something and make something happen, because we need someone to have a spark. And that's what happened when Shea came on. That's what happened when Stuart Armstrong came on, because they did run in behind, they did demand the ball, they did try to make something happen. So I think we've seen it quite a bit this season. This is what happens when you've got a young team. It can be difficult in moments when you're up against it, and you have that little bit of confusion. You need people to lead on the pitch. You need people to take responsibility and see what's happening in the moment, see what's happening in the game, and sometimes go away from what the manager's telling you, go away from what the coach is telling you, because you're in there, you're experiencing it, and maybe do something different. It's just real frustration, really. I mean, at times when Shalessa Shah's putting a 50-yard diagonal ball onto Adam Armstrong's head, it doesn't add up. I can't imagine they've worked on that during the week. It was hard to get Alcaraz on the ball in whatever formation we were playing again, but I think that was the Bournemouth midfield. I think they ushered that out quite well, and then we did get the ball wide. It was going to Cole Walker-Peters in a left back position, or Nathan Niles in a right wing back position. That's where you want the attacking players to be able to take on players in one-on-one situations. So it just didn't work tonight. It just didn't work, and you have to accept that, unfortunately. Dust yourself down and go again, but this will be a difficult one to take.
Yeah, and just 5 minutes after that change, of course, the Bournemouth goal came. Elvis, could you talk us through that one, please?
Yeah, so one of Gary O'Neill's great strengths, according to the Bournemouth players, is telling them how the game is going to go, what they can expect. He basically paints a picture of the game that where they were dropping points earlier in the season was when it all got a bit chaotic in the last 15 minutes. That was the time, you perhaps couldn't predict what was going to happen. The goal they scored is exactly the sort of goal he would have said, this is how we're going to beat Southampton, because we're going to sit in Dominic Solanke, who has been mocked mercilessly for his lack of Premier League goals over the last 5 years after being hyped so much. He was wonderful in the Championship last season as the out-and-out striker. He is a very good all-round attacking player now. He picked the ball up just inside his own half, I think, drove forward, played the ball through to Tavernier, and then in fairness it looked like Southampton had it all under control. Shaletta was out there with him. Tavernier scored a wonderful goal from the corner of the 18-yard box against Fulham a few weeks back, where he curled it into the top corner. This time he again cut back and there were 8, maybe even 9 Southampton shirts in the box. It looked like it was all under control, and he scuffed his shot, and somehow it has dribbled its way into the far corner. So it's another one of those real hammer blows that everything just sinks after that, because it was predictable. We knew how Bournemouth were going to approach the game. We knew how they were going to try to score goals. He hasn't hit a worldie, and yet suddenly Southampton are 1-0 down, and that mountain has grown ever so much more.
Dean, as Paul said right at the start, it looked like we were set for a grandstand finish when Shea had the ball in the back of the net, marginally offside by a toe, it looks like, after the VAR review. But in saying that, as Paul also said, 2 shots on target, didn't really trouble Bournemouth in that second period. Why was that?
It's a good question, Steve. Yeah, you have to say some credit to Bournemouth. They defended well. They defended for their lives. I'm finding it hard not to say it. I think they maybe understood the magnitude of the game a little bit more and the importance of the game. It looked like that in their performance. But we, like I say, when we got into wide areas, we hesitated a bit. There wasn't, when Maitland-Niles was getting the ball on the right-hand side quite a lot, he didn't have someone on the inside to maybe play a pass in and play for a 1-2, or so they could turn in, or get an overs or a dummy so then it could go into the front man. It wasn't happening. It was kind of players passing on the responsibility of, well, you've got the ball now, what are we going to do? And one thing I saw out on the pitch, which you get sometimes, unfortunately, is it was quiet. There was no communications, there was no demanding of each other. There was no, right, if he gets the ball in, Nathan and I was going, I need help. Help me. I'm not going to take someone on one-on-one. So I need some help. I need an option. I need some support. So not enough crosses in the box, not enough of winning second balls, not enough of players willing to take a player on and have a shot. And that was the only difference when Shea came on and Stuart Armstrong came on. Don't get me wrong, Stuart Armstrong came on and 50% of the time he gave the ball away. But 50% of the time he almost created something, and did create something. Shea ran in behind, used his body strength to hold the ball up, to be able to bring other players into the game. He does that so well, and it's a really good finish from him. And unfortunately it's offside, and it is just offside. But that's all it came from. It was Lianco got the ball wide, he gave it to Stuart Armstrong, and he just put his head down, moved his body, good balance, good shimmy, cross into the box. Shea Adams gets into a good position, touch, finish. It's really simple when it comes off, but I think what it wasn't enough support for players on the ball. I've got the ball, here's an option, here's a second option, just to move Bournemouth around. They would say they could just move across, nice and easy. They weren't being moved around or getting out of position or stretched. They were quite comfortable moving across all the time. So just a lack of variation and creation. But the 2 boys that came on, in Shea Adams and Stuart Armstrong, I thought they were brilliant.
I suppose the question now is, where does this leave Southampton ahead of their clash with Newcastle on Sunday?
One of the last places you want to go, really, isn't it? Look, it really does look very bleak. I don't understand it particularly, because you look at all the players as individuals. They've all got great quality, wonderful talent. They're obviously super fit. 3 managers haven't been able to get a tune out of them, certainly consistently enough. And the big problem is here at St Mary's. 10 points in, 17 games, 11 defeats, only 15 goals. You're not going to stay in the division with a home record like that. So going up to Newcastle, who've scored another 4 goals today, they're absolutely flying. They're looking to finish third, certainly finish in the top 4. Already beaten Southampton 3 times this season, haven't they? So the only sort of positive you can say is that against the bigger teams recently, the Arsenals, Tottenhams, Manchester Uniteds, Southampton, for whatever reason, have put on a show, and they've picked up points, sometimes even 3 points. It's an enormous ask. It's still mathematically possible. Of course no one's going to give up, but I think we need a bit of realism as well.
Dean, as Paul said, Newcastle scored 4 again in a 4-1 win over also relegation contenders Everton. Do you hold out any hope for Sunday?
You have to hold out for the hope, Steve. And the players have to believe. They have to believe that they can get something out of the game. They have to believe that it's still possible for them to stay up, because it is mathematically. So you have to be able to get over this result really, really quickly. Put some preparation in for the game against Newcastle. It's a really difficult place to go. But like Paul said, the players seem to be able to raise their game against the so-called bigger teams, the teams that are fighting for the Champions League, and we have to hold on to that. So, and you have to play for pride, and you have to play for the club, but you have to isolate the game. What can we do in this game? It doesn't matter where we are in the league. We're playing Newcastle United, who are flying at the moment, like Paul said, but there also will be some anxiety there because they're expected now to get into the Champions League and they'll be expected to win. So game plan, build a game plan, get the players buying into it and believing in it, and go and try and get something for the game. And that's all you can do, and take it stage by stage in the game. First 10 minutes, can we get through that? Next 20 minutes, can we get through that? Can we get an opportunity? Can we create a chance? Can we keep a clean sheet? That's what I would work from. Think about, right, can we keep a clean sheet against Newcastle United? Can we do that? Can that be our aim? And if we can, ultimately Southampton always creates something, and then can we be a little bit more ruthless and get a goal? But who knows?
Dean Belver's not an easy one to analyse, but appreciate your company as always. And as ever, thank you to you, the fans, for tuning in and joining us on Saints Live and the Final Whistle. As we've mentioned, it is a short turnaround ahead of Southampton's clash with Newcastle on Sunday. We'll be live from 12:45 for that one, so do make sure you join us then.
See you soon.